Sure.
Okay.
What questions do you have for me about fitness? I'd love to help there too.
Um, well, I just want to go through the body, right? I want to give you a body part. I just want you to tell me what you think is the most effective one exercise or your preferred exercise for each body part, right?
For
Can
each
we do
body
that?
part?
Right. So let's start with the delts. One exercise?
Yeah, I'm gonna do a little bit of thinking, like, what's technically effective. You know what I would say? I would say that, most of them hit the body part, especially if you love it, you become great at it, you put
Okay.
that passion and zeal, maybe you feel really confident in it. So I wonder if you told me for every body part, I'll probably come up with logic, but it's probably an emotional reason, right? So to answer your
Right.
question for delts, I love dumbbell shoulder presses. What I would say the reason why is I love the challenge of the weight, but I also like how it moves. The arms move independently of each other, the limbs. So each shoulder, it's a challenge to make sure they all balance. Rather, if
Okay.
you used, a military bar, one could dominate. You can still get it up. And if you really weren't really sensory acute to the feel, or you didn't actually see yourself, it would seem like you're being just as efficient because you got the bar up and down. But really,
Right.
one arm might have had a slightly better form or was stronger. So I like the independent of each limb with dumbbell presses.
Would you prefer seated or standing for those?
Seated, I mean,
Yeah, me too.
it's not only that I prefer, I haven't really done anything more in all my years. I'm sure I've done standing, but once I did seated, that's just what I know. So that's more of a preference and not even remembering what standing even feel like, to be perfectly honest.
I think I just prefer the stability. I feel more stable whenever I'm in a seated position
Sure.
for those. Okay, so what about biceps then?
Dumbbell curls, probably for a lot of the same reasons, right? I mean, a lot of times people, do the curl in each arm,
Mhm.
but we don't normally have the same coordination in each arm. One elbow might be a little bit flared out than the other, so I like the challenge. I like the independence of dumbbell curls.
Triceps.
Triceps, you know, I don't really like triceps because that's an exercise when you tax yourself. I'm probably like a lot of other people. I hate that where it just seems to come every once in a while, that feeling in your elbows. And
Yeah.
I hate loading up bars just to put myself through pain. So I like tricep push downs. It's easy. I could feel it. It feels safe, right? So probably tricep push downs, cable tricep push downs.
Yeah, me too. I use a cable for that as well. Chest.
Chest, it's probably dumbbell press, and probably for the same reasons as
So,
overhead press and bicep curls, because each one is independent. It's challenging. I'm good at that exercise, right? So on an incline too. That would, so are you asking me? I wonder if every answer I'm giving is really my
it's going to be dumbbell.
and mechanically or scientifically
Yeah.
what's the best. Anyway,
Well, there was a study that showed that using dumbbells actually will recruit more, for the chest, will recruit more muscle fibers.
right.
Probably because you can take it a little bit deeper when you can with the bar. You can go a little bit deeper if you got using dumbbells.
Uh-huh.
So, dumbbells are better for chest, but it seems everybody seems to think that the fundamental is a barbell bench press, but I would prefer using dumbbells.
Yeah, and that's the reason why you're going to always have one side that's more dominant than the other. You're not going to
Yeah,
hold your elbow. I mean, unless you're really good, right? It's going to have a different feel. You might feel one in one shoulder. I think it's just easier to execute when they're independent of each other. But it's the same movement. I don't like single limb movements. Like kickbacks, right? You do one arm, then you do the other arm, where they're independent. I
right.
like them working independently of each other, but it's the same,
At the same time, yeah,
right?
right. I get it. So, what about abdominals then?
What's that?
Abdominals.
Abs. I don't know. You know what probably is the most challenging is getting a dumbbell and doing leg lifts.
Yeah,
It's not necessarily that's probably the best, but that takes a lot of work. I'll tell you, the best ab exercise that I would say is lift heavy because you're tightening that core and watch your diet, and that can do a great, sometimes a lot more direct work and display your abs more than any type of direct weighted
direct.
work. So,
Yeah. Me personally, People ask me about, doing special movements for the side of the abs and stuff. I don't recommend any of that. I don't think it's necessary whatsoever.
Yeah.
You're doing something just for your obliques. Totally unnecessary, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just saw a guy doing that today, and I thought of that same thing where he got a 45-pound weight.
Yeah.
All that. I'll tell you, you want to have thick abs, right? So everybody doesn't, but once they get to a certain thickness, I mean, really, they work indirectly with heavy training. I mean, you diet, you're gonna have a great set of abs, right? It's just getting a layer of fat off of them to show how great they are. So,
right. Okay, so what about the back?
Back, I love barbell rows, probably. Although I don't think that fits, if that's not consistent with those other exercises. But I just like to load it up, get it over with. That's probably my favorite back exercise, barbell rows.
Let's do the legs overall. I would assume would be a squat, right?
No, I'm not. That's probably the best. You're right, especially when you execute it well. I have never been a great squatter, and I don't put all this emotion, and my whole identity is squat till you drop. But I mean, I'm not one of those guys, right? I do it. Right. I look at it just like any other exercise. It is probably the best exercise. It's not my best exercise, but it's I've always done, right? So, yeah, I would say that's the best exercise to.
But you've probably noticed, and I have too. There's some trainees who, it's probably just because of the way that their biomechanics is, they're never going to be great at squatting no matter what. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, and that's kind of like the little caveat that I put to it. If you're not passionate about it, you're not good at it. But even more than anything, we always, see the internet about don't skip leg day. Well, unless you get your identity from squats and leg day, I mean, most people are not as intense. I don't care what they try to tell themselves for legs. And there's a lot of reasons why I think that is. It takes a lot of weight to really overload them, and it's probably more scary than a lot of things. And also the old thing, you can cover them up, right? So it's not that glamour body part. It takes a lot of work. And if you don't push yourself because you want it really badly, well, you're never going to figure out how to do the perfect squat. And a lot of people will never. And so if they want to round out their physique, the best exercise for them may be leg press, right? Where it's safer, right? Especially if they're never going to, whether they realize it or not, they're never going to be mentally into squats to really get better and better. And then you might as well, wherever you're confident in squat leg press, right? And it's not, it's a hack squat because you'll be more into it. You'll challenge yourself more.
That's right.
The purpose isn't, unless you're a power lifter, we're bodybuilders. We're results driven most of the time. We want this physique that looks a certain way. How we train is the process. Now, again, the more effective and efficient you train, the better results you should have. But at the same time, if you're not going to put your heart and soul into the squats, whether you realize it or not, if you can develop your legs with a leg press or a hat squat, because you feel safe or whatever your reasons are, well, that's going to lead you to the results more than kind of half-assing squats mentally and physically, right? So that's going to give you the challenge of anything being the best exercise. It's kind of like the best routine. The best routine is the one you love, you're pushing yourself, and that you're going to do on a consistent basis, right?
Yeah, it's a fair point, yeah. And the leg press is actually the exact same mechanics as a squat. Your body's in a different position, but it's the exact same mechanics on your legs. And I tell people,
I look at it that way, but you notice how on leg press, the same guy who says you got to drop, I drop below parallel. And it's funny, you look on the internet, anytime you see someone's going to post a video of them, right, and it's squats, right? You already know this guy's butt is going to be so low if he's going to put it on the internet, right?
Right.
I mean, his butt is going to not just hit, it's going to hit the floor. It might even go 1 inch below the floor if he's putting it on the internet. I already know it. I laugh every time. Watch this squat. It's going to be past textbook, right? I mean, people are just so, I don't know. It's more insecurity driven sometimes, we bodybuilders, right? But you notice that same person, he doesn't even go down like hardly at all on the leg press. right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you say it's the same thing, they don't put the same emphasis on the depth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that just me? Have you noticed that?
Well, I see people not put the depth in on squat as well,
But
unless it's on
I
YouTube.
think that the internet has told us we're a wimpy little pussy if we don't squat past parallel and pause at the bottom, right? But
Right,
it's okay to just go down, load up the rack, have somebody stand on it, and just go down, a few inches. That's kind of acceptable. Am I right?
right, yeah,
That gets a pass. So it's just interesting. You said it's like the same exercise. I don't think people generally, sounds like you do, I don't think people generally treat those the same at all.
right. It's true.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so let's move to calves. What do you do? What's your favorite?
Calves, probably seated calf raises. Probably, if you ask me why, I don't know. I like sitting down.
It's comfortable, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably. And that's a close second to standing calf raises because all I have to do is adjust the rack, put in a pin. That's even easier, right?
Okay, so I think that's everything.
Okay.